All right, perfect. Let's get started. So, all right, greetings and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, family and friends, members and participants, prospects and referrals, EazyBot Nation. Today we have another lesson for our crypto curious community, brought to us by Wealthy Choices. I'm your ever so lovable host, Charles Anderson, EazyBot user and business intelligence author. What terms and tips do we have in store for you today? Well, we'll be going through our safety and security series. We'll bring you module 3 from our safety and security series. And in previous modules from this series, you learned about things like private keys and seed phrases, user wallets, hot and cold storage. Today, we get the chance to introduce to you the unpleasant aspect that's ever present in the crypto space: bad actors that perpetrate criminal acts known collectively as scams. So in the next module, we'll actually cover examples of various types of crypto and DeFi scams and get a little more specific or detailed regarding scams, the blockchain, and distributed ledger technology industry. But today, it'll just be a brief introduction to scams. So we'll cover things like, what is a crypto scam and what are some of the purposes or objectives of scams, different types of scams, how to identify them, some legal recourse that you might have if you're ever a victim of a scam, and the biggest thing, right, how to avoid this stuff, ways to mitigate it, right? And so, as a reminder, at the end of this module, you guys know already you're gonna get a knowledge check. And we're gonna prepare for the knowledge check today. So what you want to do is just pay close attention, take some notes, and kind of internalize this stuff, right? This is something you really want to focus on. An example of a question from the knowledge check might be something like, what's the fourth level on the path to financial freedom? Or for this knowledge check, you might see something like, what are 4 red flags that help investors identify potential crypto scams? Okay. And so after successful completion of the knowledge check, you'll gain access to some free training material and some social media content. And as a reminder, you always want to remember to use hashtag crypto made easy, hashtag educated and earning. Okay. All right. So let's dive in. I'm going to admit Miss Irene back into the room. And you guys do have the ability to unmute. If you're not speaking, just go on mute. But whenever you have a comment or question, feel free to raise your hand and we'll tackle it from there. Okay? All right. So one more reminder, none of this is financial advice. We make no guarantees of income or earnings and no claims that you will avoid being a subject of a scam, right? And getting your funds back. So this is just important information that you want to master. But even if you master this information in this content, again, there's no guarantee that you can avoid or even mitigate or even recuperate from a scam. But it is important to pay attention, right? And that way you can minimize your risk of exposure. So we know that the crypto space is rife with fraud, manipulation, and money laundering. And that's a fair summary of how regulators, legislators, and other critics of the space regard or describe crypto. And such claims are made so often, right, that the industry advocates, we seldom challenge those claims, especially given high profile scandals like FTX, Terra Luna, right? However, are the claims correct? I mean, crypto is a really complex global ecosystem that's operated in a legal and a regulatory gray zone. And it's not for any nefarious reason. It's just there aren't any regulations out there that are solid. It's a unique approach to ownership, crypto, right? And it's a disruptive technology for financial systems. But a more objective look shows that most crypto fraud is just regular fraud that involve crypto. The vast majority of actual crypto activity is and has always been fraud free. Okay. So a statement like rife with fraud and manipulation and money laundering, that can be used to describe any financial system, banks, or even government. Okay. So what's so special about crypto? Right? What's so special about crypto? So you may be wondering if you should even be in crypto, considering all the bad things that have happened in the space, and also considering that there's a big boom in the space that's about to happen, but there are so many people trying to take advantage of that. And so we'll cover this more in Module 7, where we discuss specific types of assets like Bitcoin that make people a lot of money. But take note, the crypto space in general, and specifically for assets like Bitcoin, it's been more profitable than any other asset in 2023, more so than gold, oil, or silver, or even the Nasdaq or the S&P 500 index. And so there's a good reason to that myth that you hear about crypto millionaires existing. According to the latest report from Crypto Wealth, there are more than 88,000 people around the world that have become millionaires because of crypto. That's verified fact. And so there are plenty of ways, and we've seen this before, that people get into crypto and they win with it, right? Plenty of ways to win in crypto. The buy and hold strategy, like many of us Bitcoiners might do, where we purchase Bitcoin at a low price and wait for it to go up. We hold on to it. You can stake it on a platform like a Coinbase and earn a percent return for having set aside some crypto. You can mine it with computer software and accumulate assets like Bitcoin or Casper or anything else that can be mined, or you could trade it, right? Buy it low, sell it high. So plenty of ways to win, and there are more than this, right? There are airdrops and peer-to-peer, plenty of ways to win in crypto, but there are also plenty of ways to lose, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So you got to look at what is your goal in the crypto space, and for us, it boils down to gains, profit, financial freedom. So a loss for us is unacceptable, but it's also sometimes irreparable. We can't recover from a loss. So whichever method you're using, whether it's hodling or trading or automated crypto trading, EazyBot, you're looking to accomplish the goal of financial freedom. And you don't want to be deterred from your goal of financial freedom by a scam. Okay. And so we remember from the 7-level journey that our goal is to get to level 7. Okay. So think of financial freedom as an elevator, right? On which you're riding. And since you've embarked on this crypto journey, your goal is to at least get to floor 6, level 6. But you're trying to get to level 7. So you end up getting on at the ground floor and you go level by level until you get to your destination. That's the fun part of this ride we're on with EazyBot. So you're in the crypto building and the elevator's moving pretty fast. But there's also many people in that building that are trying to get on the elevator with you that you don't know. So let's do a little bit of descriptive imagery. Many people trying to get on that elevator with you, and you don't know who they are. You can't tell if they're a pickpocket, a murderer, a identity thief, a hit and run specialist, a con artist, saboteur, or if they're someone who can support you and help you. You just don't know, right? And so that's the world we got to navigate. We got to figure out who the bad guy is and how to avoid that bad guy. We also want to figure out who the good guy is and how to align ourselves with the good guy so that we don't experience a loss. And that's what today's introduction is about. You're on the financial freedom elevator in the crypto space, in the crypto building, in order to be able to make it safely to level 7. But you need to be able to recognize scams and how to avoid them. So the average consumer, they'll hear about crypto millionaires and they'll succumb to FOMO, fear of missing out. that sets in, right? And there's an urge to get involved, and they just jump right in without any rational thought, and they fall for anything. Victims of scams, they usually start with small amounts of money, and they put it into a platform, and they get instant returns, right? And they're able to withdraw early on, which makes them believe the platform's legitimate. And then victims tend to increase their investment based on the returns that they've seen or that their friends are getting that invited them to the scam. And they may be pressured to invest more by the scammers. They see reports of regular profit, and eventually the victim decides to make a large withdrawal. But at this point, it's all over. They're told that they need to pay taxes or a fee for profit or a fee for gains, and they'll need to have additional funds. They don't have the ability to withdraw at all, or their account is frozen due to securities fraud, money laundering, or the platform goes away. They never get their fictitious earnings back, and they can't recover their investment. And that's what's typical. But did you know that cryptocurrency scammers have stolen more than $1 billion since 2021? That's only 2 years ago. That's a report from the FTC. Since the start of 2021, more than 46,000 people have reported losing over a total of $1 billion. And that's just the people that report, right? So it's a big industry. Scammers have a big industry. That's about one of every $4 reported loss, more than any other payment system or method. Okay, the median, the midway point for losses reported, $2,600 gone. And the top cryptocurrency experts say that they've paid scammers in mostly Bitcoin, but Tether and Ethereum, right? And then some other coins that are a little more or a little less well known. But it's an industry that's very alive, very profitable, very proficient, right? And so us as investors, we got to be prepared. Um, this is something that just recently happened, right? This month actually. Give you an example of what's going on. And so, knowing how intimidating crypto can be for the average consumer, people that thrive on fraud will often attempt the unsuspecting with the promise of profit. That's your victim, right? That's your victim. And so let's take a look at a study. This got released, Department of Justice this month. An indictment was unsealed where we learned that an Australian national and a guy from California, two people working in tandem internationally, right? They set up a Ponzi scheme and they got a good $25 million from people, just two men, right? And so what they did was they set up a fraudulent site and a scheme, and they targeted investors that weren't too tech savvy or knowledgeable about the space, and they got them to invest, right? They promised large profits, and people fell for it, okay? And they created a fictitious entity called the Federal Crypto Reserve, and they showed promises of high gains, and people fell for it to the tune of 25 million. And you consider crypto's been around for 15 years, and everybody knows there are scams in crypto. But even till this day, people are still falling for this stuff. People are still falling for the crypto scams. Okay. There are countless cases, and our next module will actually go through different examples based on the type of fraud that it is. But here's what you want to know. Scammers and thieves, they got multiple ways of stealing your crypto, right? And I'll make this claim. Nobody gets scammed unless they choose to get scammed, either directly or indirectly. So I want you to think about it this way. Think about it this way. You can divide the victims into these four categories. Okay. One category will be those that are too egotistical, right? Their ego precludes them from preparing. They think like, This won't ever happen to me. I know too much. I know enough. This can't happen to me. Then you got people that play the part of a victim, but they're actually criminals in disguise. They think like, I want this to happen to me, so I can play the victim, claim insurance, manipulate prices, get regulation pushed back, or even regulation rolled out. Then you got those that invite scams to happen. I want this to happen to me because I like the challenge, or it's my job. I'm testing a protocol, or I'm actually tracking a scam organization or a criminal network. And the rest, the other 97% or so, they're the real victims, right? These are people that they're just not prepared. And preparation boils down to education. Okay. And so here's what a crypto scam will do. The purpose of a crypto scam, profit, right? Profit. And the underlying mechanism behind the scam is to gain access. And without access, a perpetrator cannot perpetrate. They're gaining access. So that's the main purpose of a crypto scam, to gain access. And so, what do you think? I'm sorry, Sine Timba. What do you think is one thing that a crypto scammer might want to gain access to? It could be anything. Just think of something. What do you think? One thing a crypto scammer might want to gain access to?
I think maybe he would want to actually gain access to my exchange account, maybe wants to get into my Binance account and take crypto from there.
Oh man, that would be phenomenal for a scammer. If a scammer got access to an account, that would be a dream come true. Absolutely. And they have ways of getting access even without your knowledge and without being discovered. But yep, they would definitely want to gain access to an account that you don't own. Absolutely. 100%. Perfect. So for crypto scammers, it's all about access. What can they get access to? We'll talk about some of the things you want to do to prevent people from gaining access. But here are some examples of scams, right? And believe me, y'all, when we were conducting the research for scam modules, I started to cry. I started to cry. There are so many different types of scams that you just be surprised what's out there. But you got fake mining apps, you got extortion, you got NFT scams. And the prevailing thought here is you want to, if you're in the crypto space with the plethora of scam options that are available to criminals, as a retail investor, you are advised to proceed with caution. You are advised to do your own research. And those are two things that victims are not doing. And that's why they become victims. But take a look. We'll end up doing our next module, will end up focusing on all of these, right? We'll give you example of all of these. But anybody surprised here at how many scam options there are in this space? It's phenomenal. It's actually a bit scary that they've come up with so many different ways to defraud investors. Now note, some scams can take on more than one form, or they involve multiple tactics, i.e., giveaway scams and impersonation scams can be used together to defraud investors. Another example is impersonation scams and phishing or vishing or smishing scams used together. So none of these scams work or work well when the intended victim is prepared, vigilant, well informed, and focused, right? None of this stuff works if you're prepared. Okay. So with all these scams that are out there, right? With all these scams that are out there gotta be some signs that this is a potential threat to you, right? There gotta be some red flags. So let's go through that briefly, some of the red flags. And again, we'll come back in our next module. We'll come back and go through these different types of scams that are out there. I might talk about one or two today. For example, pig butchering or recovery scams. But let's go through some red flags that help you identify what threat you might be facing. Okay.
Please explain the pig butchering. That one is
Absolutely. Absolutely. No problem. So, and don't worry, Miss Irene, I'll definitely come back to that. We'll go through an example today of pig butchering. Okay. So, red flags. Red flags for signs of crypto scams include the obvious, right? Bad grammar. that could be a telltale sign. They don't know how to speak the language that they're communicating with you in very well, but they're trying to influence you to take action. That's a sign, right? Excessive marketing tactics, especially things like claims of lots of money. Let's get a little deeper. Let's look at these red flags in earnest. Let me pull all these up. So you got things like some things you wouldn't even consider, but it is a telltale sign. Let's take the example of a company name change. Companies update logos and names all the time, but sometimes, and sometimes more often than not, a company will have a name change after their previous company name fell under hot water or scrutiny, right? They try to divert attention from what it was to something novel where people can't uncover or understand what it had been, right? Oh, I don't want to go too far back. Let's go back. Look at things like only accepting crypto payments. I know for many platforms, you might get involved and fiat's not an option. And they might insist on things like wire transfers or only doing crypto to remain anonymous, right? And sometimes one of these by themselves is not enough to say, hey, this is a scam. But more often than not, you'll have multiple red flags for a particular scheme, platform, system, opportunity, right? And so you got to know these all. You have to know these all. That way you can be able to, you're more likely to be able to ascertain the legitimacy of a particular opportunity as opposed to falling into the category of a victim. Anything that seems too good to be true, that's a red sign for you, where your skepticism should be heightened, right? Right. And we know about things like promise of future gains, and you gotta pay to play, so to speak. But people are falling victim even after identifying these red flags for themselves because there is the fast turn, the high reward. And so with high reward usually comes high risk. And so people will ignore the red flags in hopes of that risk that they're taking panning out. So it's important. You gotta memorize all this stuff. And this is not an all-inclusive list, but you gotta memorize all this stuff so that you'll never fall victim. Okay. And this is true even for people who are using EazyBot. You still are subject, you still have exposure to scams in this space, right? Because you still need to send and receive crypto, right? You're still going to come across individuals that want to introduce you to something, some system, some form of payment, some platform that might help your EazyBot experience. You're still going to come across even bad actors in the EazyBot space that we might not have been able to identify and weed out, right? That might try to perpetrate some sort of fraud, gain access to your EazyBot account information, or gain access to, like Cine Timba said, your exchange. So even in our own space, where we take pride in the fact that we want to minimize your exposure to risk, and we have a community dedicated to preventing scams, even in our own space, you still got to know these red flags so that you don't get into that category, a victim, right? So you want to make sure you're able to verify contact information. You want to make sure that you're moving slowly before you take action with an investment, right? You don't want to ignore red flags, but you do want to ignore unsolicited communication. You definitely want to protect your personal information, right? So if you do get involved with the scam and you do become a victim, there are things that you can do. Okay. there are several regulatory agencies that you can reach out to that can help, right? And your first step is always contact the authorities, report and document the crime. And then you can go the next step of contacting certain regulatory authorities or bodies to help. However, you always got to be prepared for the instance where you get involved with the platform and you become a victim of a scam and you're never going to see your investment again. All right. And that's why we always talk about how don't don't risk more than what you're willing to lose. Okay. But take a look. Give you some examples of regulatory bodies that you may be able to contact. You're always going to want to start at your local or state level, especially your local authorities. File a report, make sure it's documented. Then you have access to entities like the Department of Financial Protection and Innovation at the state level in California, right? And you'll have something similar in your own state. Let's say you're in the United States, or even if you're in a different country, you're going to have a local or state agency that will give you some kind of guidance or direction. At the international level, you might have something like IFW Global, Internet Fraud Watchdog, right? At the national level, in the United States specifically, contact the FBI. They do that kind of thing. At the global level, you got entities like Interpol, and they're vastly responsible for the majority of these global cases that are under review and are being investigated related to crypto fraud. So there is some legal recourse, but more often than not, right? More often than not, if you are subject to a scam, then you're going to experience some loss. But you do have some legal recourse, okay? Especially if it's a platform that has defrauded a lot of investors. You're more likely to see some kind of recuperation from an event like that. If it's on an individual scale or small scale, then you're probably looking at irrevocable loss. Sorry about that. Okay. So you got to be prepared or prepared for irrevocable loss. And better still, just protect your assets, right? Don't get involved with something that has red flags. Doesn't make sense. Okay. So we'll conclude this up and then I'll go through example of recovery scams and pig butchering. But the bottom line is we assert that the quickest way to lose your crypto, give it to somebody else. That includes any type of investment opportunity. That includes giving somebody access directly, indirectly, inadvertently, giving someone access to your personal information related to crypto. That's the same thing as you giving them your crypto. Okay. So it's really important that we educate ourselves on ways to avoid or mitigate scams. And what are the ways to avoid or mitigate scams? Number one, education, y'all. Prepare yourself with knowledge and experience. Number two, diversification. Think about minimizing risk by spreading your allocation across different options. You want to spread your allocation across different exchanges, different asset classes, different assets, right? Think about this. Let's say you're all in on Bitcoin and God forbid, Bitcoin falls to zero. Now we know it's not very likely to happen. It's not probable, possible, absolutely, right? And you have all your funds in and there's some kind of hack or some kind of security threat on the Bitcoin blockchain. Oh my goodness. Now you've lost everything, right? So diversification is key, even across different assets, right? Even across wallets. Let's say you have a particular cold storage wallet or a hot wallet like a MetaMask or a Trust wallet or a Tron Link or any one of the hot wallets that are available. And you got all of your assets in that one wallet. What a risk you're taking. And there are hackers and people that are primed to take advantage of something like that, right? So education first, diversification next. Third, we'll just throw this in there for kicks and giggles. EazyBot, right? Safe, secure, consistent. And consistency is one of our core values, right? along with gratitude and patience and commitment, leadership, respect, trust, integrity, service, and transparency, right? Transparency. That's important for a platform to be transparent. Transparent not only with the individuals running the show, but the how it operates, right? So if you get involved with the platform, make sure they're transparent. Okay. So some steps you can take to protect yourself and stop a crypto scammer in their tracks. Again, we know education, diversification, choose a platform like EazyBot with transparency. You also got to guard your personal information to prevent access from a criminal. You want to verify identities, right, before taking action. Someone approaches you enough with an opportunity, they give you whatever information about it and them. You got to verify that information. They say we're based in California, and really they're registered in Seychelles, right, where there's no jurisdiction for the United States or no regulatory bodies for them to be scrutinized by. Well, you're probably going to lose your funds, right? You always want to rely on known contacts. People might solicit you via email or Telegram or what are the other things? I don't know, Facebook, right? And they have opportunities for you. It's not a known contact. So that goes back to verifying identity. You want to be aware of shady contact information, anything that mimics something else. People might have a EazyBot website, but they spell it a little bit differently. Or it might not be eazybot.com, it's eazybot.io, something along those lines. If you get involved with something, you might want to do something like insist on a contract or avoid payment ploys where you got to pay up front. Okay. And so, God forbid, right, you get involved with something and there is actually a scam and you become a victim. Remember, you do have legal recourse, especially in the United States. You want to contact your FBI and submit a report with the FTC. But my recommendation, anyone and everyone on the call today, what you'll want to do is right now, today, take a look at what regulatory body, your jurisdiction, could, should, would help you in the event that you are subject to a crypto scam. Who do you end up reporting the scam to, and what are the steps that you can use to try to recuperate your assets? That's something you want to do on your own and research it. Okay. And so let's take a look at two of those different types of scams. We'll go through pig butchering first, and then we'll go through the recovery scams. Okay. I'll pull those up. So, Miss Irene, hope you're paying attention. This is for you. Let's take a look at first we'll do the pig butchering scam. Okay. And so this has been around for a little while. It's come under observation more recently as it's gained momentum because of the 2022 crypto crash. It was invented China, right? Came out of China. And what happens with it is the terminology is based on the process of fattening up the pig for slaughter, right? And so what'll happen is the scammers are cold contacting people on things like SMS, social media, dating sites are really big for this, or any kind of communication platform. And they'll say something like, hi, or something like, hey, Josh, or hey, Irene, or hey, Cine Timba, right? And it was fun catching up with you last week. Or they might not use your name at all. They'll use a different name. And if you respond, you might say something like, you got the wrong number, blah, blah, blah. The scammer takes the opportunity to try to develop rapport with you, right? They strike up a conversation. And it's like you hit it off with a new friend. And after establishing that initial rapport, they'll introduce you to the idea that they themselves have been making a lot of money with cryptocurrency investing. And the target, right, they'll start considering getting involved. And so next, the scammer, they set you up with a malicious app or a web platform, and it appears trustworthy, right? And it may even impersonate a legitimate financial institution. And once inside the portal, like you as the target, you go on, the victim can often see real-time market data, but it's curated, right? They can see things that look very plausible and credible, okay? And once the target decides, you know what, this looks legit, I'm gonna jump on board, right? They they put funds in their investment account and they start watching their balance grow. It looks like it's working, okay? So crafting the malicious financial platform to look legitimate and refined is the hallmark of pig butchering, right? They're fattening you up. You start believing the hype. You're excited about the potential to take out all that money that you invested and got a huge return for, right? And what happens is you might do something like even a video call with the new friend, right? And they talk about doing a withdrawal, something along those lines, where you get a bit of the money out to use, and that lets you think, yeah, this is a little better. This is cool. This is cool. But the later tactic is the same thing as like a traditional Ponzi scheme. Once you've deposited a lot of money and they have everything that they can get from you, right? The account shut down. You can't get in touch with them anymore, right? And then the added twist to this, the added twist at the end of the pig butchering, they'll throw on a recovery scam. And it might be months later, right, that you get a contact from someone offering false hope of recovering those irretrievable losses that you got hit with in the pig butchering scam, right? And they'll start with something like the claim that they represent government or law enforcement. They'll give you good news about your case in the pig butchering scam, right? They'll show some credential and it looks like they're expert recovery officers, but they're just thieves, right? But they'll claim that the ones that scammed you, they've been caught. And to bolster their claims, they might have a bogus website or social media site. They even have a services page or a published news articles that look legitimate, but they're fake. And they may use links to articles about your incident to kind of bolster their claim. But the bottom line, they're claiming that those who cheated you out, they've been caught, and some or all of the funds have been recovered, and you can get your money back. All you got to do is pay a fee or some kind of tax or some kind of administrative compensation, right? And you might comply, right? All they're going to do is pocket your fees, right? And they've gotten a lot of people with the pig butchering / recovery scam. And so it's pretty big. It's a big deal. Yeah, it's happened to a lot of people. And we'll go through some specific examples in our next modules, but I hope that was helpful. Pig butchering is pretty much, it's a long-term scam where you build instant rapport, and through that rapport, the scammer incites or entices someone to join some kind of illegal and non-legitimate investment scheme. And they take their money, and then they get contacted later with the prospect of getting their funds back. And typically it's from the same scammers that did the pig butchering, because the pig butcherer, they know the person that they scammed pretty well from their rapport that was built, and they get them to indulge in the recovery scam. So they got scammed twice. Like a target will get scammed twice with that combination. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. Yep, people fall victim all the time, Miss Irene. It's a tough space, but it can be very profitable. And it's something that you want to remain in, but you just got to remain educated, diversified, And hey, stick with EazyBot. Okay. It is time. Knowledge check. Learn something today? What thoughts do you have? Who's paying
I
attention?
surely did, not realizing how many are out there and the techniques they go through. Oh my God.
Very creative, inventive, but it only works, Miss Irene. What? As a reminder, why does it work? Why do these scams work?
Greed.
That's a good point, but you still can be greedy and not get scammed. So why do these scams work? Why do these scams work? People are not prepared. They are uneducated about the space that they're operating in. No one, as a reminder, no one gets scammed if they are prepared to combat that scam. And your preparation, it does include things like identifying red flags and your education in the space that you're operating in. Let's go back to this slide where we talk about categories of victims, categories of victims. And so the vast majority of people, what they're experiencing is approach from sources that have promise of high return. And so there's your greed, right? Like people jump right in. And that was actually a characteristic of victims where they're enticed by promise of high return. So they kind of are labeled as greedy people. That's a characteristic of them. But they fall victim to the scam because they're not prepared for the scam, right? They're either ignoring the red flags or they're not well educated about the risk that they're facing or the potential risk that they're facing, okay? Or they just don't know enough about the space itself. They might not know how to keep their private keys safe. This is a cool example of someone not keeping their information safe. Let's take a look at this. Whatever crypto they had, they don't have it anymore. So this was a post, and I'm sure it's in the spirit of jest. This was a post, right, for people in the crypto space where an individual was celebrating a gift. And the gift was one Bitcoin, right? And the device that the Bitcoin can be accessed through is this ledger, this cold wallet, where Bitcoin's not actually on the ledger. Bitcoin's still on the blockchain. Bitcoin's not on anybody's wallet or in anyone's wallet. Bitcoin's on the blockchain, but you have access to the blockchain through use of your private keys, your seed phrase. And so they say guard your seed phrase with your life, right? You don't want to give anybody your seed phrase. You don't want anybody to have access to your 12 words or your 24 words. If they do, they can move your Bitcoin to anywhere they want. They can send it anywhere they want. They'll have instant access. So this individual hyped up about the fact that they got one Bitcoin. They posted a picture of their wallet. They also have in the background their seed phrase, right? So any scammer, anybody, not even a scammer, anybody can use this to get themselves one Bitcoin. First come, first serve, right? First person that used this got the Bitcoin, sent it somewhere else. There you go. They got it. This could be an irrecoverable loss, but this is an example of lack of education. I'm sure someone with one Bitcoin typically, right, would not do something like this if they knew better. If they knew better, right? So just an example, lack of education there. All right, ladies and gentlemen, you can go through your knowledge check. It's on the link that I pasted. Looks like this. Pretty simple, right? Just a few questions on there. Once you're done, you can submit it. Then on another call, we'll get to go through, on our next module or class, I should say, we'll go through the grades for everybody. Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns?